Hey, welcome guys! Did the Americans use African children to get alligators? Before we get into this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing videos. But for now, let's see if it's really Americans use African children to hunt alligators. Americans kept alligators as pets, but where did they get them from? Some people believe that they got them from Africa. Is this true or false? Well, it's true, but not in the way you might think. In the 19th century, Americans would travel to Africa and hunt alligators. They would then take these alligators back to America as pets. This is where the rumor started. However, there is no evidence that Americans used African children to hunt alligators. The alligator trade was very big in the United States during the 1800s. In fact, at one point, it was legal to hunt alligators in Florida for $5 each. This led to the extinction of alligators in some parts of the United States. But how did these alligators end up in Africa in the first place? Well, it turns out that alligators were introduced to Africa by humans. The first recorded introduction of alligators into Africa was in 1866 when a French ship arrived in Gabon with a shipment of live alligators. These alligators were bred for their skins, which were used to make leather goods. It's unclear how many alligators were released into the wild or escaped from captivity. But what is clear is that these alligators thrived in their new environment. In the wild, alligators can live up to 50 years. This means that the alligators released in 1866 could still be alive today. So how did Americans hunt these alligators in Africa? Well, it turns out that the alligators were easy prey for the Americans. All they had to do was walk up to them and grab them. The alligators weren't aggressive towards humans, and they didn't have any natural predators in Africa. This made them an easy target for hunters. But why didn't the Africans hunt the alligators themselves? Well, it turns out that the local tribes had no weapons to defend themselves against the alligators. The only people who were safe from the alligators were the ones who lived in areas where there were no alligators. But what happened to the American hunters when they returned to the United States with their alligator trophies? Well, it turns out that they were arrested. At the time, it was illegal to bring alligators into the United States. This was because alligators were considered a nuisance species. They were seen as a threat to livestock and property. As a result, Americans were only allowed to import alligators for scientific purposes. This meant that the hunters were arrested and the alligators were confiscated by the government. So, did Americans use African children to hunt alligators? No, this is just a rumor. The truth is much more complicated than that. But it's still an interesting story. You probably already know that alligators can live in both fresh and salt water. But did you know that they need salt to survive? That's right. Alligators are one of the few reptiles that need salt to survive. They get this salt from the food they eat. However, if they don't get enough salt, they will eventually die. This is why alligators are often found near bodies of water that have high salt content, such as the ocean or lakes. Alligators are also able to regulate their own salt levels by controlling how much water they drink. If they need more salt, they will drink less water. And if they have too much salt, they will drink more water.